Good morning, makers, and welcome back to another edition of Saturday Morning Craft Along. I'm your host, Agnes, and today we are making a very special wreath craft that I'm so excited to show you how to make. We're going to be using a bunch of materials that you probably already have around the house, so this is a really versatile craft, and you can get so creative with all the different kind of themes that you can involve in your wreath making. And it's just a really nice way to spend some time at home around the holidays, especially now that we're all kind of stuck in our homes. So this is a really great craft because you can really kind of take off with it and just go wherever your mind takes you. So I want to jump right into it. But before we do that, I actually want to announce our winner from last week's draw. So we ask every week that if you're crafting along with us, that you share photos of your projects, and that way you're entered into our weekly draw. So we're happy to report today's winner is Leslie. So congratulations, Leslie. We'll be getting you a prize pack for last week's craft, which was the Harry Potter Advent Calendar. I also want to give a special mention to one of our viewers, Sam, who's been working really, really hard on his Advent Calendar. And I was really impressed with the book that you made. So he's been doing our Harry Potter theme along with his project as well. So great job, makers. Keep up the fantastic work, and please keep sending in your photos because I really love to see that. Okay, if you're watching live with us, please say hello in the chat. That way you'll be entered into the draw at the end of today's show. And I want to jump over to our table view and show you all of the wonderful materials that we have going on today. I kind of picked through a bunch of drawers and boxes and busted out all my Christmassy craft supplies. So I want to kind of show you what I have going on, and maybe you guys have some of this at home too. So first of all, we are making a wreath. So there are a couple options of what you can make your wreath out of. So you might have some of these wreath forms. So you can pick these up at the dollar store, Dollar Tree. It's $1.25, so you really can't beat that. Michael's will have them as well, a little more expensive at Michael's. But it's made of wire, so it's quite sturdy. This one's 14 inches, so that's a good size wreath. You can definitely make your wreath any size. We're going to be making a smaller one today. So wreath forms are great because they're ready to go. You don't have to do any extra work. They're really easy to wrap, so I'll show you how you can wrap it with some fabric and yarn. But another option, and the one that I'll be showing you on the show mostly, is how to make it out of cardboard, because cardboard is super accessible and everybody can get a hold of cardboard. I've been using these cake circles. I just happened to have them left over from a summer camp project. We had a whole box left, so I thought, okay, they're already a circle. They're good to go. And so, I decided I would use these for my wreath today. It's also a great size to show you on the camera. So you want to decide how big you want to make your wreath. Now, these circles are about 8 inches. You can definitely go bigger or smaller. And yeah, so just depending on what you have. So find a dinner plate, something round that you can trace your cardboard out of. And then you'll want something a little bit smaller to trace the inside circle. So I've got about 1.5 inches all the way around for like the width of my wreath here. And so I recommend that you also make it double layered. So I've gone ahead and cut out 2 circles, and I'm going to be hot gluing these together, and that's going to give it extra strength. Okay. So I just want to say hello to everybody in the chat. Good morning. Hi, Sam. Hi, Carissa. Hi, Anna. Is Julian and Sophie watching today? If you're watching, please say hello. We'd love to know who's with us today. Okay. So cutting out your circles, I just want to give you a little tip if you're using your cardboard saw. So for cutting inside shapes, I will, of course, want to trace out my line. So how to cut out an inside shape with a saw. You'll probably want to use your pokey tool. So, because this is going to give it a good start. So just poke your pokey tool. And this is a nail and a cork. This is a tool we invented. So give it a couple pokes, 2 or 3 pokes side by side. And that gives your saw a starting spot to kind of go. And that way it's easier for your saw to kind of get in there and then continue cutting around. Okay. You can also use a knife, but that's how you use the saw that comes in the kit. Yeah, so take your time doing your cutting. Once you have your 2 circles, we can glue them together. Because this is a cake board, I'm gonna have the white showing on the outside, just because. So then I will take my hot glue gun. And I'm using my glue gun on low today because I find that it works best with like fabric crafts, and that way it doesn't need to be hot and I'm less likely to burn myself. There you go. Okay, so I've got my double layered cardboard. This is gonna make it extra strong. And now the next thing you wanna do is wrap it in something. So there are options if you're, so for this, my sample wreath, this is the one that I made actually a couple of years ago now. It's been kicking around. So on this wreath, I did use the wire form and I did use some fabric. So if you have access to fabric, you want to cut it or rip it into strips. You could also use ribbon for this. Just anything that is about 2 inches wide. Burlap might be a nice look too. So it's really whatever kind of theme you're going for. And you'll want to wrap your form. So you would just start in one spot and then start wrapping and kind of overlapping. And keep going until you run out of fabric and then cut a new strip. And to secure it, you'll probably just do a little bit of hot glue on the back would work fine because you're not going to see it. But I want to show you guys what I did with my small one. And that's using something that we did a couple weeks ago. So a couple weeks ago, if you caught our show, we made t-shirt yarn. And I have been, I've had the tops of the t-shirts that were left over and thinking about what could I use those tops of the t-shirts for. Turns out you can use them to wrap a wreath. So I turned my t-shirt yarn into something for decorating my wreath. So I'll show you quickly how you can do that. This is actually the sleeve of my t-shirt. So I just went ahead and cut it open so it's like a bigger piece. And then you can just cut about a 1.5 inch strip right off the edge. And because it's been tie-dyed, you really get that really cool variation in the color. So if you come across any stitching on your t-shirt, just cut those bits out. So any of the hems and seams. So this is a great way to use up the extra bits of your shirt. You want to give it a pull to stretch out the t-shirt, okay, to make it skinny. And then that's what I did to start wrapping. So I've decided that this is the back side. You can see kind of all the ends. And I would take a bit of hot glue, anchor down my yarn. Okay. And again, my hot glue's on low, so if it seeps through, it's not going to burn me. And then you just start wrapping. And you're doing it close together. You don't see any of the cardboard showing. So give it a bit of a stretch so that all the ends end up at the back. Okay, and then just secure it with a little more hot glue. So this is super economical way of using up things that you already have at home. So look around, see what you have. You could wrap it in some chunky yarn as well. Yeah, I like to layer it. So after I go with my chunky yarn or my t-shirt yarn, you could go in with some skinnier stuff. So I have a collection of different colors of yarn today. And I like to come up with a color scheme. So I'm going to be making a mini version of like my Woodland Animals theme. But you're going to use colors that make sense for your theme. And you're going to, yeah, just start layering it on. So you could use it right from the ball and just kind of pass it through your wreath. Or you could just cut a section off. Might be a little easier. So you'll always want to anchor the one side, and you could tie it or you could hot glue it. I think I'll just tie it. I only like to use hot glue when it's absolutely necessary. Sometimes you can get carried away with the hot glue, and I find it tends to, and it can start to look messy, well, especially without the little strings. So there we go. We tied it to the back, and now I can take the rest of my yarn and just kind of start wrapping it and spacing it out. It's a great way to use up like short pieces of yarn that are left over from a project. Yeah, this is a great project to use up scraps of stuff. So I hope you don't feel like you need to go out to the store to get stuff, because this is a really great challenge to see what you can make with what you already have. And that's also part of being a mindful maker. Okay, let's see who's in the chat today. Sam is here and Anna. Oh, just Anna this morning. Looking to make a wreath. Wonderful. And Hazel. Welcome, Hazel. Hope you guys are crafting along with us, or maybe you're just watching and you're going to get into it a little later. All good. Oh, I had just enough to get around. Wonderful. So I'm going to end up hot gluing this to the back because I don't have enough to tie it. Okay. If you have our essentials kit, it will have come with these little rubber fingertips, the little silicone tips. So those are a great thing to use today if you're going to be hot gluing. Lovely. So I would probably go in with like another yarn just to like build up the different colors. You could just kind of wrap it until like it looks good to you. So that's kind of the process. I will jump ahead to our next thing that I want to show you though, because I don't want to run out of time. So think about it in layers. So you always want to have your base layer and then you're building up and up and up. After you do your yarn wrapping, you're going to start to think about all like the little ornaments that you want to add to it. And I did provide a template for today, and we're going to be using we're going to be making a cone to make a little tree. So, because my wreath is so small, my tree takes up almost the whole middle, but I like the look of it. It looks really cute. So for this tree, I'm using either some cardstock or some cardboard from a cereal box. So we're going to be using this template. So this is available in the description and also on our live stream page on the website. You can go ahead and download that, cut it out, and trace it onto some cereal box or onto some cardstock. So I've got some green cardstock here. That way it's already the right color. And yeah, I'll use the template and my marker. And there is a joining tab, so we have to make sure that we use that joining tab. And there's one little thing I want to show you. I'm going to mark out where the joining tab is, and of course finish that line with my ruler. Okay, so one thing I did notice about the template was that we have to cut away a little bit of it to get it to come together nicely. So it's really just you draw a straight line across and make for this little triangle that we're going to cut away. Okay. And make sure you're using some thick paper for this, because the thin stuff is going to be too delicate. So cardstock or cereal box board is perfect. Okay, we're going to fold it along that edge. So to help you, you could take a ruler and either your scissors or your cardboard saw, and you just want to kind of score the line to make it easier to fold. So I find that when you score things, it just makes it way nicer to fold it exactly where you want it. And now I don't want to see the marker line, so I'm actually going to make sure the marker's on the inside. But before I do that, of course, I'm going to cut off that little extra bit. Bye-bye. And then we're going to fold it in, and then you can see where the tab would join. Okay. So for this, I do like to use hot glue. I'm going to squirt it on and carefully wrap it into a cone. Without trying to touch the hot glue. This part could be tricky too. But it is on low temp, so. Oh, and maybe it's too low. I did dry it out before I had a chance. Cool. You can use double-sided tape for this as well. Would work out. Okay, so there's my cone. And now to give it a trunk, we're going to be using one of my favorite crafting materials, corks. So Corks are great because they're easy. You can hot glue to them. We're going to be drilling into them later. We're going to be cutting them up. You can draw right on top of them with markers. You can paint them. They're a really, really cool material. So if you know someone who drinks wine, get them to save the corks for you. Okay, so we're going to need 2 to make the trunk of the tree. So we're going to be stacking them up and putting them on the inside. Okay, and this size cone is perfect for 2 standard corks. So for the first one, I'm going to, actually, let's glue them together. So I'm going to put a big blob of hot glue on the bottom and get them stacked up. And you got to hold it until the glue dries. So practicing a little bit of patience. Keep the pressure on it until it actually cools down enough. Okay. And then we're going to add a little more glue and stick it into the cone. So for this one, we're going to add the glue like around the edge. We're not going to put it on the top because it's not going to touch anything. So when we put it inside the cone, the only parts that are going to touch are the edges of the cork. So be generous with the hot glue. This big squirt around the edge. And you got to work quickly before the glue dries. And then just go ahead and rub it in. And now hold it and make sure it looks straight. You don't want a crooked Christmas tree, okay? So again, a little bit of patience. Wait for it to cool down. There you go. A quick little Christmas tree. You can use these in other ways, like around the house. If you wanted to have it like freestanding, you might need to cut out a little piece of cardboard to make like kind of like a stand for it. But we're going to be attaching this to our wreath. If you want to go the extra step of making your tree look like really good, you're going to want to wrap it in some yarn. So to do that, I would just start it with a bit of hot glue at the base, at the bottom. Okay, and now we're going to wrap it, and every little once in a while, we're going to add a little dash of hot glue. Because the paper is green, it doesn't matter if I don't cover it completely. So this will take a little bit of time, but it's going to like make your tree look really, really good. Using some nice fuzzy green yarn today. I'm actually going to leave a little bit of space in between because I have the green showing through. But if you are using like cardboard and you want to cover it completely, you're going to need to like wrap your yarn really tightly around. Ooh, you're going to put a bow on it. Lovely. Of course, bows go well with trees and Christmas. Great idea, Sam. Of course, bow making is a skill all in its own, right? I like to collect the ribbons. So at Christmas time when I get gifts, and if it comes with a pretty ribbon, I'll keep it. And I'll use it in a craft like the next year. Okay, so you can kind of see how it's coming together. Just doing little glue dabs every once in a while, maybe every inch or so, just to hold the yarn on. And I'm trying to pick away the glue strings that are almost inevitable when you work with hot glue. I really don't like to see the hot glue, so that's why I like to use it like in little dabs. Only as much as necessary. Looking good. Of course, there's other things you could add to your Christmas tree. So if you have a collection of beads or sequins, those make great little ornaments. Bows also. Cool. It's coming together. I'm almost there. Might as well keep going. Finish it off for you guys. Okay. Of course, we gotta hear the end. Woohoo! Tree is good to go. Pick off all the little strings. We don't want to see them. There's your finished Christmas tree. And But you also have to think about how your ornaments are going to attach to your wreath. So putting a big glob of hot glue probably don't do it. So I always like to put wires on my ornaments. So I'm using today some floral wire, and it comes in like these big long pieces and they're green. So if you're making a green wreath, they blend in. Of course, you can use any wire that you have, but I recommend like maybe 18 to 22 gauge is good. But you can see kind of how thick it is. Not thick, not too thick. And we're going to be using a power tool to get our wire through. So I'm using a little drill today, and this is probably an adult will have to do this step unless you're skilled with using a drill. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill straight through my cork so the wire has space to go. Because unfortunately, you can't just push the wire through the cork. It does need a little hole. And so I'm going to drill it about 1/4 inch from the bottom. And it's going to pop through the other side. Okay, and I'm using like a 1/16 bit, if you're curious the size. Now that I have a hole, I can put the wire straight through like so. And you want to leave your wire nice and long. So I think this piece is probably about 14, 18 inches. And you can bend it down. And now you have like a long wire that you'll be able to use to attach to your wreath. So show you how you can attach it now. So if you push your wire kind of to the back and you give it a twist like so, twist it close to the cork, give it a couple twists. Okay, so you don't see the wire at the front, just at the back. And now you can use this to put it on your wreath. Okay. If I want my tree sitting in the middle, I'm going to have my wire at the back, but I will need to wrap it around the front. That's why we leave it nice and long. I'm wrapping it around until I run out of wire. And then again with the other side. Here, I'll show you what it looks like at the back. I'm wrapping it as tight as I can. And if you don't want to see that wire, like if it is standing out for you, you could take some yarn and try to like disguise it. Or this is a good opportunity to cover it with a bow. Okay, so you have to be creative with kind of disguising the things that you don't want to see. Just fiddle with the wires until they're in a spot that is working for you. Cool, so it did work quite well. It's standing up. It's not really wobbling too much. I didn't pay attention to like where the seam was on my tree. So if I was to do that again, I would make sure that the seam ends up at the back. But that's okay. C'est la vie. Okay, so that's one way to attach your tree, and I find that is the best way because that way, because when you use wire, you can actually undo it and you can change your mind and you can move it. So if you were to like hot glue something on, it's kind of a one-shot deal and you're kind of stuck with it because the hot glue will, of course, seep into the fabric and it's permanent. That's why I recommend you always try to use wire and like temporary ways of attaching things so that like you can change your mind later if things aren't working for you, because we're going for like a harmonious, balanced kind of a wreath today. That's always the goal, right? So there's your little tree. And next I want to show you guys how you can make a flower out of some felt. So I have a little poinsettia here and a bell in the center, and I used a pipe cleaner. So just 3 elements. We've got felt, a bell, and some pipe cleaners. So simple craft materials that you probably have or very easy to find. And we're going to need to make our own template for this. So I'm going to show you how. I'm going to grab some scrap paper and something that's circular that I can trace. So I want my flower to be, I'm going to make this one about the size of the inside of my tape here. So this is going to be my template. Now I'm going to find the center of that circle, and I'm going to divide my circle into 3 parts. So I'm going to draw a straight line up. And then I'm really just eyeballing this. I'm going to go down, a peace sign, right? Okay. We're gonna turn these lines into petals now. So I'm gonna just draw sort of like a scoop shape on one side and then on the other. So now we have a leaf. And I'm just gonna repeat it for the other lines. And you notice that I am overlapping my lines. I do want that. Okay, so we're just doing these curvy lines and we've created a 3-petal pattern. Pretty simple. Now you want to cut that out. And we're going to use this as a template to cut out our felt. Okay, so there's my flower template. We're going to cut this out of some red felt today. And I'll show you an easy way to cut that out. So you have a couple options. Of course, you could put it on there and trace it with some chalk or marker. But an even faster way is to just pin the paper right to the felt. So if you've got some sewing pins, you want to put your template as close to an edge as you can so you're not wasting your felt. And you're going to put your pin right through the paper. And if you want, you can put a couple so that it doesn't move around. And I'm just going to go ahead and start cutting. I'm not going to bother tracing because I have this pinned pretty securely. It's going to go that much faster. And when you do your cuts, just come in from an outside edge and work your way around in little snips. I'm actually going to cut like this out almost completely. So it's like away from the sheet. And then I can come in and take away the little remaining bits. Okay, there's one. See how it did? It's a little not great, so I'm just going to go back and refine my shape so it looks good. Okay, now we're going to need 2 of these. So once you have one cut out, I find you can just take your first one and lay it right on top and pin it down and then use that as your guide for cutting out your second one. Of course, I already have Christmas songs stuck in my head. So I've been humming jingle bells to myself all morning. Anyone else have any favorite Christmas carols or carols in their head right now? If you go out to the grocery stores, yes, they are playing the Christmas carols. Okay, we've got two of the same, and we're going to lay them on top of each other. So it's kind of offset. So we have 6 petals poking out, and now we're going to add the centerpiece. So to do that, I'm going to add a bell, just because I have one. And I'm going to take a pipe cleaner. And this is actually a half pipe cleaner. So if I wanted to use like a big one, you want to use your wire cutters. If you have them, try not to use scissors when you're cutting pipe cleaners because it does damage the scissor because it is a little wire in there. Or if you have scissors that you don't really care about, you can use that too. So for your half pipe cleaner, you're going to stick it through. The bells always have like this little slot that you can stick it through. And, ooh, you keep humming, Oh Christmas Tree. Yes, that's a good one. And you can kind of give it a twist to stop the bell from moving around. And now we got to get this pipe cleaner through the craft felt. So I find that you actually have to pre-make a little hole. Because if you try to jam the pipe cleaner through the felt, it's not going to work so well. So to do that, if you have our bookbinding kit, you'll have this all. But if you don't, all this is a thick sewing needle. And so what you can do is you can make 2 holes. I'll make a mark with my marker so you guys can see. I want to make 2 holes kind of spaced out. Okay. And then you can go with your awl or like a thick needle, and you're going to poke it into that hole. And then you're going to kind of like move your awl around. So I'm just kind of like rotating. I'm just kind of like moving it in a circle to sort of widen the hole. And it's kind of hard to see it on camera because it's so small. But what we're doing is is like pre-drilling essentially. We're like pre-making the hole for the pipe cleaner to go through. Okay. And I'll do that to the second one as well. Okay. And then I find that you have to actually separate the layers. So you can see the holes. The fat, you can stretch out the fabric, right? And so just do this one layer at a time. You're going to take the pipe cleaner, put it into one hole. And actually, you could take your pencil too. So if your hole's not quite big enough, take your pencil and push it in. That really helps to stretch it out. Yeah, that looks much better. And then now it's much easier to get the pipe cleaner through. You want both to go through and then push it up until it reaches the bell. And then we'll take our second one and we'll need to arrange it so petals are going in the right orientation. And then feed it through the second layer of your felt. Okay, so when you have it all together, you should have that offset and look kind of like a flower. Now to finish it off, you're going to want to twist the pipe cleaners together at the back. So just give it a couple twists and then put them back together. Now you have a pretty flower. And this makes a great addition to your wreath. So I could just tuck these underneath the yarn that I already have. So that's a great benefit to having the yarn wrapped. Makes it an easy way to attach things. I'm just going to slide it underneath. Yes, we're stirring the pot. Nice, Krissa. So I just slid it underneath and it's holding fine. You could actually twist these under if you don't want to see them. Okay. This is looking super Christmassy already. Loving it. Okay, so what else can we add to our wreath? See what else we have on our table. Of course, we want to make a little character to live in our forest. So the little mouse that's on this wreath is super adorable. And I want to show you guys how I made it because I just think it's super, super cute. And your character can be anything. I'm going to make a mouse today, but you can make these characters into whatever fits your theme. So there are a variety of corks here on the table. Now, this is the one that if you can get a hold of these, they're better because they have this sort of head and body shape built in. These are the kind that you can find on like champagne corks. So if you can get a hold of them, you can make it out of this, but you can do it with a regular cork too. It just doesn't have the same shape. That's okay. What we're going to need to do this is actually a saw or a knife because we're going to be cutting little slices to make the ears. And so I'll show you how I did that. I'm cutting my ear shapes out of just a regular cork. And I find that corks are quite easy to saw. It does take a little bit of pressure. So I'm just pushing against the table, holding it steady with one hand, and just kind of rotating it. Okay, until I get a nice little slice. So it's about 1/4 inch thick. That's as skinny as I would go. And then we need to attach it to the cork somehow. So notice that because it's a circle, there's not much surface area for it to like hold on to. So we're gonna have to make some more cuts. So I'll show you what I did. It might be hard to see. I'll show you on here. You can see I took a little chunk out of my cork slice, and that's going to help it attach to the head better. So all I'm doing is cutting away, just like I'm drawing like a little 90-degree cut in there. So it's actually just like a little triangle. That's what we want to cut away. You can use your knife or your saw or even your scissors to do this. So I'll take my saw and I'll just cut down and then rotate it and cut down the other way until I remove that little chunk, okay? And just to give it a test fit, because I have a weird gap happening, so I'm gonna cut off a little bit more, and you wanna just adjust it until it fits your cork. Yeah, I think we need to make the triangle a little wider. Okay, that fits a little nicer. So there could be a little bit of a gap, but it's gonna get filled in with the hot glue. But you can see how this will stick a lot better than if we didn't make that little cutaway. So I'll just fill this up with some hot glue. And then quickly stick it on. There we go. A little bit of hot glue is kind of squishing out. That's okay. You can always remove it later. Once it's cooled down enough, you can kind of get rid of it. Okay, I want to do the same thing for the other ear. I already have one already pre-cut, ready to go. And it's already looking like a little mouse. So cute. Love it. Now our mouse needs some features and maybe a scarf. So I'll show you how I made the nose for my mouse. So I actually used a little sewing pin. So these little quilting pins have like a yellow head on them. So I ended up cutting it to make it shorter so that it would, because this is too big for, it would like poke out the back of the head. So I did end up using my side cutters and I cut it about in half. And to do that, I just kind of clamped it down and then I wiggled the one side until it broke off. So you want to discard the other part of the pin, the garbage. And now you should be able to have this push right into the face to make a little nose. Maybe push it against the table if you're having trouble. Yeah, okay, there it goes. Got it. Okay, and if you don't want a yellow nose, you can color it. So I'm just using a black marker. Pull it out a little bit so it's away from the cork, and then just kind of color it in. You could make a little red nose, would look super cute as well. Whatever you fancy. Make a little Rudolph ornament, a red nose. Lots of ideas. Let that dry. You've colored it in, and then you can kind of push it back down, get it finished off. And to add some eyes, you can just draw those right on, little circles. Getting the eyes to be the same size is tricky. Yeah, mine are kind of like a little bit off-centered, so I might move the nose over, be more in the middle. And yeah, there we go. To add some color into the ears, I used a pink permanent marker. I'm just gonna draw like little circles in there. Oh, and it doesn't want to color in over top of the hot glue, so that's why we got to try to use minimal hot glue. But it colors the corks really nicely. There, a little bit of color. And what else do we have on our mouse? A scarf. So yeah, so I'll show you how to make a scarf really fast with just some yarn. I'm gonna make a little braid. So I'll cut off maybe, I don't know, about this much. Maybe less than an arm's length. In 3 colors, and we'll make a little braid. Or if you already have like fancy yarn, just use like 1 piece and you're good to go. If you do want to make a braid, so you want to get 3 pieces of yarn. Oops, I did not cut that one. 3 pieces cut off, okay? And then make a knot at the top. So you have like a little fringe. We'll probably trim that up later. And then if you have some tape, you can tape it right to the table while you're making your braid. And that way you have something to hold it down. So this is a great practice for braid making if you have never made a braid. And I learned how to make a braid like at a young age, so I've had a lot of practice. And all it is you have your middle yarn and you're just alternating, crossing over the yarns from the outside. So I'm going to go left side over, and now the white's in the middle. Okay, now I'm going to go right side over, and now the yellow's in the middle. You just keep going back and forth from the outside in, and kind of pull them out of the way each time you cross it over so they don't get tangled up. Having it taped to the table gives you a little bit of tension, so you can kind of pull as you braid. And I think this gives an extra special touch as well. So of course, all those, the more time you spend on it and the more details you add, the more impressive it'll be, of course. Just make sure you're enjoying the process, because that's the whole point, is to have fun while you make. And if you're getting tired, take a break, come back to it. Maybe get some people in your household to help you out if you feel like it's taking too long. It's always fun to craft with people as well. Okay. I'll end it about there. I'm going to make another knot. End it. Okay. And then you can just trim off any extra. You want to have a nice little fringe at the end of your scarf. Here's what it turned out like. And you can go ahead and wrap this around the neck of your mouse. Oh, he's looking so cute. And I'll just kind of give it a little tie. You don't even need glue. Kind of arrange it till it looks good to you. So to attach this to the wreath, we're going to do the same thing that we did with our tree, and that's drilling a hole kind of across the back, so across the bum. We're going to do a hole like about there, and it's going to pop out, hopefully about there. So it's just going through the back side of my mouse. A little drill. Ooh, came out exactly where I wanted it. Perfect. Take your long piece of wire. Always better to have longer than shorter so you don't run out. You can always trim wires later. Now, wires should fit through. Okay, push it to the middle and then bend it back. Get your wires to be like equal in length. And then you can give it a little bit of a twist. Okay. And that's ready to be attached to your wreath. So let's do that. I'm going to put it next to my tree. Feed the wires through. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing where I wrapped the wires around the bottom of the wreath. On both sides here. Okay. Oh, looking good, looking good. Okay. Now, what else can we add to our wreath? Let's see. I have a list of things here that I can show you guys. We've done the tree and the flower and the mouse. So if you have pine cones are easy to find if you go outside on a walk. I'll show you a way you can attach pine cones to your wreath, and that's with more wire. One of my favorite materials for this craft. You want to take another long piece, and really you're just going to be wrapping the wire along the opening near the base. So depends on how open your pine cone is, but you'll take your piece of wire and just kind of, you're almost like weaving it through, just getting it to get stuck. And then once it's around, this is very similar to what we just did. We're just going to twist it. Okay, and now it's attached to the wire. And we can use this and we can just wrap it around. Okay. Or you can kind of tuck it in. You really have to just play with it and like whatever looks good to you. If all you have is yarn, you could probably put yarn in and then tie it. I like to use wire just because it's stiff. There we go. My pine cone is secure. Another thing we can add are like leaves. So like sprigs of like greenery is makes it look really, really Christmassy. I got all this stuff going on here. I think I gotta tidy up a bit. Okay, so we're gonna do another felt addition. And for that, we'll make another template. So I'll go back to my scrap paper. And this one's gonna be super similar to the one we did. But instead of 3 petals, we're gonna make 2 petals. And to do that, again, we can draw a line. Okay, and then we're gonna do that curved line, half of a leaf, and then again, match it on the other side, that half. We're going to end up, I think we're gonna cut this at the same time. So you could draw it, again, like similar. But because it's a symmetrical shape, what you could also do is just draw one and fold it in half and then cut it out at the same time. That way you have 2 leaves that are exactly the same shape. Okay, so something like that is what you're going for. We're going to use this to cut it out of green felt this time. Here we go. And I'm going to pin it on like I did before. You can trace it if you want. I'm going to use 2 pins so it doesn't move while I'm cutting. And then here's my pro tip is that you cut it out like, if you have a large sheet, just cut away around it like roughly. And now it's easier to like get in there and cut away all the details. Ooh, we have a suggestion in the chat. Maybe you could repurpose old string friendship bracelets. Yes, definitely. Those would make adorable little scarves for your cork characters. I love that idea because, again, it's keeping with the theme of using what you have. I love repurposing things, using them in a new way. Great suggestion. Thank you, Anna. Okay, so now I have a little leaf. And I'm going to add some berries to this leaf. So I actually have a little collection of pom-poms. These are these tiny, tiny ones that I found at like the Dollarama, but you just, again, use what you have. We're going to be adding a wire to them and then putting them all together in like this little sprig. So for this, use the thinnest wire that you can find. I have like this kind of shiny, super thin wire. Cut it into lengths that are about the length of my hand, maybe a bit shorter, about 4 or 5 inches. And then you can take a pom-pom and just stick the wire straight through the pom-pom and push it to the middle. That, okay. And then you're gonna bend it in half. Grab the wire and then just twist the pom-pom until the wires kind of get twisted together. You can twist till the whole thing is twisted. So we want it to look something like this. And then you want to make a bunch of them. So I've got one already to go. I would suggest the minimum is 3 because things always look good in bunches of 3. A design thing. When in doubt, go with 3, or odd numbers, I should say. So get it on there. Bend it in half and give your pom-pom a twist. Okay. So now that I have 3 made, I'm going to put them all sort of side by side, but they're going to be at like different heights, so kind of staggered. And then I'm going to put them all together and we're going to do the twist again. We want all of these to twist and become one bunch. So it's important that you are using thin wire because you can see how quickly this would start to build up. We have a lot of layers of wires here. So that's how you make like a cute, quick little sprig of berries. And we want to add our leaf to that. So we can take our leaf and I'm going to put it underneath. So the wire's on top. And then you can just kind of like twist the wire to the back and then twist it back down, just so we're kind of capturing the leaf in between the wire. We just want to get it kind of secured in there. And then it gives the leaf a little bit of makes it pucker a little bit. All I've done is I've kind of twisted the wire around the felt just to get it to attach. And there you go. There's a cute little sprig. You can add more leaves to this. Go ahead and add it into your wreath. Tucks nicely under the yarn. But you can twist it around the yarn. Try to hide the wires if you can. All about camouflaging things. Cool. I think that looks pretty cute. So you could add a bunch of those and kind of make it look really balanced. And that's another addition for your wreath. Let's see what's left. Of course, you can add paper crafts. So if you can cut out like little shapes out of paper and glue them on. You can go kind of nuts with it. I did want to show you one thing. So if you have our full kit, if you have our felting kit, you probably have made one of these hearts. So felted ornaments make great additions. This one actually does have a little brooch on it. So I could pin this right on if I wanted to. That way I can remove it later or change the spot. So felted creations go really well. They have that instant cozy look. Yeah, so that's kind of all of the shapes and creations I had today. Yeah, I think you guys, whatever you have at home, please just like use what you have because that's a great challenge. And don't feel like you need to go out and buy new things. It's a good crafting challenge. So yeah, pipe cleaners, yarn, bells, pom-poms, whatever you have. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. We are getting to the end of our show today. So Carissa, if you'd like to do our draw. And I think the prize this week, I haven't decided, but I was thinking I would just put together a bunch of like Christmassy craft supplies and give that away to help you with your wreath creation or your ornament making this season. So that's what we'll be giving away. Yeah, so hope you guys enjoyed the craft, and that's kind of all the things I have to show for you. Oh, one more thing, of course, battery powered string lights. So I picked these up at the dollar store. This is the final touch that you want to add to your wreath. And if you have one with like a big battery pack, this one takes 2 AAs. So you might want to think about where you're going to be able to hide your batteries. If you have a small wreath like this, I had one thought was that you could actually wrap this in some paper and make it look like a present and like incorporate it into the design of your wreath instead of like if you have nowhere to hide it on the back, because this is so small and it's kind of heavy, it might be difficult to try to hide it. So you could wrap this up with some paper and make it look like a gift and then just kind of like wire it on. But adding the lights is gonna like just be that extra special touch for your wreath. So I would recommend that you add it at the end. That way, like when you know you've finished adding everything. Okay, let's see if we have our winner draw. Yeah. Oh, congratulations, Hazel. Fantastic. So Hazel, not sure if we have your contact information, so make sure you send us an email, and that way we can get your address and we can send you our craft supplies for this week. Awesome. Thanks for being our viewer today. I'm gonna just wrap these around, fiddle with them until they look good. Yeah, this is you want to take some time with the lights. I'm really excited by all the wreath ideas. I did post a list of theme ideas, so I actually want to hear about what you guys are thinking about with your theme. A couple ideas I had were Winter Wonderland, so North Pole. We could do little cork penguins and polar bears. The little elves could be Santa's workshop. And you could make like elves holding like little tools that are made of pipe cleaners. We could do Christmas baking. I was kind of excited about that idea. So you could even take like a cookie cutter and like use the cookie cutter as is on your wreath. Let's see what else. Or you can needle felt like little cookies if you have a felting kit, or just cut them out of felt. Yeah. So lots of ideas. I want to hear about what you guys are going to make your wreaths into. I think I'm going to keep crafting today, and I'll post some pictures of some finished ones. I actually had some ideas about Harry Potter themed wreaths to go with my Harry Potter themed Christmas decorations. Every year I put together a very special tree that I'll be sharing, of course, with you guys. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, I just want to say thanks again, everyone, for tuning in and for watching. That's all the time we have for today. So please join us next week where we'll be working on another Christmas themed craft. Of course, all December long, we're going to be focusing on Christmas decor. So don't forget to tag us. So if you're sharing online, tag us Mindful Makers because we'd love to see what you made. All right, everybody, have a great weekend, and we'll see you all next week.